Hi, so today I'm going to show you how to make make a stainless steel pan, which is not remotely non-stick, work sort of non-stick for making scrambled eggs without a whole lot of gunk left on the bottom of the pan. So the first thing we're going to do is scramble the eggs before turning the stove on or anything like that. So I'm going to be using 3 eggs, which I'm cracking into a bowl to whisk. 2 and 3. Okay. Now usually when you make scrambled eggs, you mix something in to sort of emulsify it, and you can do, some people will do oil or butter or milk. What I'm using is, thanks to an Alton Brown recipe, mayonnaise, which he says makes a better emulsion because it's already an emulsion. And I don't know the details of the science, but it definitely makes fantastic eggs. So I just put in about half a teaspoon of mayonnaise. And I'm also putting in some of this Trader Joe's onion salt, which is dried onion, garlic, minced onion, green onion, and chive. So it's very green, and it does have some salt. So I'm adding in probably a quarter teaspoon of that. And then, since it's not quite salty enough for my taste, also a pinch of kosher salt. And again, per the Alton Brown recipe, a little bit of harissa, which is a chili garlic paste. It's Tunisian, and it's quite tasty, and you can get it at Trader Joe's. And that just makes the eggs a little bit spicy and also gives them a tiny bit of color. So that's all the ingredients I've got for the eggs, and now we whisk it together. So poke the yolks so that they break up easily, and the mayonnaise is going to be the hardest part to whisk in, so that's what takes the most work to get to break down. Okay, so this is relatively homogeneous, except for some big pieces of pepper. And now I'm going to turn on the stove. So I'm turning it on to about medium heat. I've got a gas stove, and this pan is about 8 inches. It is Cook's Collection by JCPenney, and I got it at a thrift store for $5, so it's not a fancy pan. It is relatively heavy. It makes a big difference when you're buying stainless steel pans, especially if you're buying them used, which I do. You want them to be really heavy, because some of them are very thin, and if the bottom is thin, then things will burn to it. But if the bottom is thick, then you're good. You're going to be able to cook really well with that. So I've got room temperature butter. Now that the pan is getting pretty hot, wipe up that bit of egg white rather. So I'm adding about a tablespoon and a half or so of room temperature butter. I'm feeling until the pan's relatively hot, because you want the butter to melt pretty quickly and get the eggs in really quickly. You don't want to have the butter just sitting there, because you need the pan hot before you add your fat. So waiting a moment. So medium-high heat. And this is a flexible silicone spatula spoon thingy. And that's what we're going to be doing our cooking with. You need something a little bit flexible, and small is really good for this. So here goes the butter. And it is sizzling nicely, so I'm going to stir it around just a little bit, get it to melt pretty quickly, get the rest of it off that. Okay. So as soon as the butter is all melted, I'm going to kind of swirl it to get it up the sides, and then I'm going to pour in the eggs. And I should probably grab the phone so that I can show what I'm doing in the actual pan, so I'll do that too, once I pour the eggs. Okay, so the butter is all melted. I'm swirling it to get it up the sides a little bit, and in go the eggs. Okay. So the first step is to just let it sit there and don't touch it for like 20 or 30 seconds. Okay, that lays up. I don't want to turn the video upside down. Okay, so here's what it looks like in the pan. And we are just waiting, because we're waiting for the edges here to be relatively set. Because when you scramble eggs, you actually don't need to touch them as much as a lot of people do. You don't want to constantly stir. If you want to make pretty scrambled eggs, what you want to do is this instead. So this edge is nice and set, so I'm going to gently push it to the other side of the pan. And then the raw eggs will fill that space. And then I'm going to do the same thing on this side and pull it across the pan. And now we wait. Okay, so now I'm going to take the right side and push it across the pan. In Alton Brown's recipe, he actually does this in cast iron, and my cast iron pan is not well enough seasoned yet. But after a little bit more use, I will be switching. So it's still over medium-high heat, about there. It can be lower, but it'll take longer. I find medium-high is just about perfect. But if you go too high, then you can get burning. Okay, so now when I'm pushing it, very little of the egg is raw and moving over. So I'm gonna have to put my spoon down. Ah, okay, this is a two-handed operation. Normally I would pick up the pan and tilt it, but that's not gonna work. So what we're gonna do is start turning parts of it, just to get all of that raw egg in contact with the bottom of the pan. And as soon as all the raw egg is in contact with the bottom of the pan, then I scramble, quote unquote, break up these pieces. And there we go. Heat goes off. To get a plate. And give them a little shake and slide off, and there we go. That's the pan. So what I'm going to do next is immediately run some water in it, and if I didn't have a phone in my hand, I would be using a dishcloth with a drop of soap to get it totally clean. Stick it on the hot stove, and it'll be dry in just a second, and then you are done, and it takes like 2 seconds. Slightly longer if you're holding a phone, but there we go. That is washed. Rinse. Okay, so now we have a totally clean pan. Stick it on the stove, and we are ready to eat these gorgeous scrambled eggs. So there you go. That's how you cook scrambled eggs in a stainless steel pan without a lick of stick.